Looking for a place to speak your truth? This podcast is on an endless pursuit to build through entrepreneurship, empowerment, and creativity. Through thought-provoking content and a fearlessness to dive into untouched topics with an undeniable dedication to highlighting others who are often overlooked. This is Deep Conversations.
Stay tuned for Deep Conversation Podcast.
Welcome to Deep Conversations Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Ryan Stewart, and today I'm blessed to have two co-owners and also the CEO of Every Voices app. I'm here with Jackson Wirekoh and Thanos. Before we get started, I'm excited, to talk about this app that you guys have created. But can you guys tell the viewers a little bit about yourselves? Let's start with you, Jackson.
Yeah, so my name's Jackson Wirekoh. I'm a first-generation son of Ghanaian immigrants to the U.S. I grew up in the D.C. metropolitan area, Northern Virginia. I've been studying and working in the field of mechanical engineering for about a decade and a half now, from robotics to Department of Defense research to medical research and telecom research. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering, so it's a great love for science and technology. And now kind of working on Every Voice, which is another key area that touches home for me because I grew up in sort of a low income area. I've seen a lot of issues with how government operates, how we take care of people who are poor or facing financial difficulty. And Every Voice is a chance to try to empower those people, those everyday people, those working class people, to give them a voice and start impacting change and political change a bit more.
Mm-hmm. And you, Thanos?
Thank you, Ryan. My name is Thanos Taskas. I'm originally from the Detroit area. We grew up just outside Detroit. I'm the first generation son of Greek immigrants. So my family came here back in the 60s and later the 80s. And some background on me, I've worked in nonprofit development and fundraising for a little over 10 years now. And I have a little background in financial management as well. Prior to joining Jackson in this endeavor, I worked at a few museums across the country. I've also worked at community banks, helping like local businesses. My educational background is in history and international relations. So when we first began talking about this and creating this platform, it really got me excited because I knew how important this was, just being a student of history. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to keep a democracy going. So anything that we could do to help, I think we're on a great path going forward. And just very excited to be working with Jackson and pushing Every Voice forward.
Yeah. Now, you was talking about, you guys were, talking and kind of creating it. Everything kind of starts with an idea, you know what I mean? And the thought process. So when did that idea happen for you guys?
Yeah, it's been something I think both of us individually have thought about a lot. Mm-hmm. And with things heating up in 2019, 2020, COVID pandemic, the January 6th event, it started becoming like more and more apparent that, there's a lot of angst. There's a lot of people feeling unheard. There's a lot of kind of underlying issues that aren't being faced and people feel like they're not being faced. Look at all of the Black Lives Matter protests, all of the Women's March protests, all of the different, working class farmers protests, border protests, things like that. There's all these things bubbling up. And so kind of with that top of mind, I think both of us individually started chatting with friends, with family, with coworkers. Eventually we linked up and started talking about it in, I think, early 2022 or so. And we decided, this is something we think is really important. The people we talk to feel like they don't have an outlet for it. Why don't we give it a try and see if we can put out something that people are going to find useful, that's going to be able to give a measurable impact on legislation and change, and put that into the hands of all the key decision makers, as well as the key people who are affected. So, people living in our community, we're here in New York, so it's a very big political space. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of voices that need to be heard and need help being amplified. And so we said, let's give it a go in 2022 and see what we can do leading into the 2024 election, which is going to be a big test for democracy. And yeah, that's what we're here now, just trying to grow the platform, keep making improvements, keep getting more people involved, and keep trying to amplify voices now.
And when this, you were talking about the pandemic, I feel like, that caused, it forced everybody in the house, but what it did, it was either, I find talking to a lot of people, it either broke you or it kind of, it gave you a creative mind, you know what I mean? And I see a lot of people who, their thoughts, like you said, became amplified. And I think with this app, as I was looking at the website earlier, it's going to amplify the voices, because sometimes this generation, I feel like it doesn't. You hear a lot of people, and like you said, with the marches and all that kind of thing, but I feel like sometimes that some of them don't know what to do or where to go. You know what I mean? And I feel like with social media being so heavy in everybody's life, I think this app was brilliant. What you guys are doing, I think it's brilliant, because it's people they're focused on their phone all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something they can use that'll be helpful. So if you guys could explain what the Every Voice app is.
Yeah, to put it, in the simplest terms possible, Every Voice is really a platform for constituents and the groups that they create, nonprofits, their businesses, their campaign groups, to really have a direct channel with their representatives. And through that direct channel, be able to work with other people who live in their voting districts at the local, state, and federal level to start putting out what things are important, why are they important, and then understand how much support does that topic that I have or that cause that I have that's important to me have. How does that support break down across demographics? Hopefully showing, we have a lot of things in common, despite where we might lie on the political spectrum or on the socioeconomic spectrum, and then start giving us a feedback loop so that if there is this topic that I care about, I can share events that are related to it. I can share groups that are related to it. I can track what's being shared from my representative that's related to it. So pieces of legislation, any events or marches that my reps are actually holding on to, any action plans that my reps have for how they are looking at trying to tackle this, where they can provide dates, they can provide, different pieces of legislation that they're working on. And we can do this all in a way where it's as real time as you can be in politics, because politics has such a large time frame. But at the very least, having, when were these things shared? When were they last updated? So getting a bit more real time in terms of what's top of mind for my community, what's my representative doing about that, and start trying to create a feedback loop for change. And that's like the key part of it, right? Every Voice is aimed at being that feedback loop for democracy, so that people not only, can be heard, but can also feel heard. And that's something that's missing in our democracy now.
Thanos, I got a question for you, kind of piggybacking off of what Jackson has said, because with the app, like he said, there's going to be a lot of conversation going on. How do you think that will help the policyholders, as they conversate, as they're able to conversate and talk about it? Because sometimes I feel like the voices aren't heard because you never really see your politicians or anything until voting time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And with this going on, I think it's going to help them to understand the communities and the voices that's not heard. So how do you think, talk about a little bit how that app will help that?
I think the main way it'll help is this feedback loop that we're creating. So it's this idea of transparency of information. we have real-time polling data or concerns of constituents that are shared with the politicians. That way they're up to date on what their district, state, city, like at any level, whatever their constituents are most interested in. So this feedback loop will be created where constituents can share with politicians, and then the information politicians will be sharing is like their stance on the issue, how they voted on the issue, and just other, I guess you could also include other fellow representatives, senators, politicians that are for or against a stance, a concern, or anything a constituent might have added on through the app. So this transparency of information for both sides, I think, is very key to have this good relationship between constituent and the politician.
No, I think it's good because just listening to your answer now, I was thinking about it and I'm saying this is going to keep the politicians from not being able to kind of close the door and just hide on some things now, because it's right there in front. You got to answer. We're sitting here, everybody's on social media, everybody's on their app, so I think this will be, I keep saying it, but y'all don't understand how brilliant this is. You know what I mean? When I was talking to Raven about it, I'm like, this is huge. And me being from Delaware, I feel like we kind of get New York gets everything just, right away. Delaware is kind of slow. You know what I mean? We're slow on a lot of stuff. So for me, this is, you guys, y'all have the ideas and y'all are working on it. But for me, I'm like, man, we behind down here in Delaware. You know what I mean? But it's good. So why do y'all think the civic engagement is so important?
Yeah, to answer that, you got to look at why don't a lot of people engage civically. Mm-hmm. And most people, the bare minimum they're going to do around anything related to politics is they're just going to vote in a presidential election. That has the least effect on your everyday lives. What's going on at your state and local levels are the things that are really important. But just on average, we know the least about who our local reps are. We know the least about who our state reps are. We know the least about what policies they stand for. All we know is typically what party they're a part of. And that's, if we do vote, that's in a lot of cases what it's going to be. And so, when you have such a limited amount of engagement, and then those people who get elected are now in charge of creating policy and legislation that's going to actually affect your lives, that's where it's like civic engagement is super important. People who are elected officials, they're typically running on a few issues that are really close to them. Like they could be running on addressing poverty or housing affordability. It could be something related to guns rights or gun control. And then a lot of the other things that they're going to be voting on, they're going to be voting with their party. And in many cases, we've had the chance to talk with representatives. They don't even know what their constituents want on a hold because they're not getting information from them. It's super hard to get info at the local and state levels, and it's hard to get people to engage because most people, when they do try to engage, they're engaging at the federal level, which has a little impact and has many millions of people that are reaching out. And, you're not getting responses back. You give a call, you might have someone pick up. If they do pick up, what are the next steps that happen there? Like, you're not going to have a continuous loop of information and contact with this person. If you're sending an email, typically that email goes into a void. Same with mailing a letter. It might be received. You might get a response. More likely than not, you're not going to get a response. You could go to a town hall. It's hard to have a focused conversation about something that's really important and dear to you at a town hall because everyone has different things that they care about. And there's only a limited amount of time to communicate. And that's if you can even get to that town hall, given, your family commitments, your work commitments, any sort of emergencies that might pop up. And so for us, like, civic engagement is super, super important in terms of building out useful policies for your community. That's what's going to help uplift your community wherever you live in the US. And we want to make it super easy for people to engage with their representatives, with their decision makers, so that we can start having more community driven, more community led policy initiatives that are going to start addressing those key issues, in your city, in your neighborhood, whether it's as small as like getting a stop sign added on a street because people are speeding, or something that's bigger, like making sure that IVF is available for you because you need that to help grow your family.
Well, again, I was on you guys' website and talking, looking at the app, and I seen that you can earn reward points by exercising your voice. Can you guys talk about that a little bit, because I think that's kind of again brilliant.
Yeah, that's it's one of the incentives that we have to try to get people to exercise their voice.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is we want to create sort of like this win-win-win-win situation where you're exercising your voice. So ideally your politicians are listening. It's transparent, so you can track and hold them accountable. Your reps are getting information that's important to them doing their jobs. So it should make it easier for them, to compromise on issues as well, as if those issues, lie across political lines. And then as you earn those rewards, what we want to do as we build the company is give people the opportunity to get discounts on essential goods and services that they're using every day. So on the platform right now, we have a women's healthcare company that's based here in New York called Evie, where you can get discounts on your first membership with them or one of your first health exams with them. We have this company called The Cut, which is based out of Northern Virginia, co-founded by a friend that I went to school with. And they're basically like the Uber for barbershops and cosmetology. Like you can get a discount on your first haircut, which, is something that's going to happen like once every 2 weeks or once a month for guys, and every couple months for women. So we want to build that up. And so it's just like, okay, I'm exercising my voice to have things that I actually want implemented to happen, and then I'm going to be able to get discounts on things that I use every day. That's like the kind of workflow we're trying to build, just to incentivize people to participate and give you another reason why you should participate in democracy and exercise your voice.
What do you think that does, when for a person, when they feel like their voice is being heard? They could be from a small town or from a neighborhood where they may not always feel appreciated or something like that. So having this app and being able to say exactly what you want to say to somebody, what do you think that actually does for somebody's I guess you could say confidence?
Well, I think it's a huge positive for a person who believes like his or her voice isn't being heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could be going through life, they could be going through something terrible in their life. Maybe they lost their job or something in the family happened, and they have no outlet for sharing anything about like, what's going on with them or what's affecting them, possibly through legislation. So by us giving this channel to them, we're hoping that they have a civil discourse where they can share their concern or any issue they have with the politicians. And in that respect, the politician can then see like, oh, this constituent is very interested or opposed to X, Y, or Z. And they can also see like, oh, there are other constituents as well who feel this way too. And it just gives them this voice that otherwise they might not have. They might not have access to, like, I don't know, email or mail their representatives. So we're trying to get this app, this Every Voice. Jackson, if you wanted to chime in on that too.
No, I think that was well said.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that you're seeing those numbers so that like there's a lot of people that care about the same stuff I care about. Maybe I should act on it. Maybe I should start a protest or start an activist movement. Maybe I can start a local group in my neighborhood, in my community, to start advocating for change. And because you have those numbers, the support exists. It should embolden you to be more proactive in seeking out that change.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you guys think that there's such a divide when it comes to, political views, and, you have the Democrats and the Republicans and all of that? Listening to you, Jackson, and I feel the same way. Most of us really do have the same views, and we're talking about the same things, but then there's, you have two sides where they're telling you this, and then people think that it's, you got to clap. Why is that? I've never understood that.
Yeah, it's from reading political research, a lot of it stems from who's engaging. And so you have money playing a pretty outsized piece of what happens in government. The biggest lobbyist groups, businesses, they're going to have an outsized imprint just because of how much money they can throw around. They can help someone get elected by building out a super PAC, funding out, ads to get people to believe what they want them to believe. And then you also are going to have those really loud voices. And those really loud voices are the ones that are always going to show up to elections. So you think, those people that are going to show up to primary elections, those people that are going to vote in local, state, federal elections, typically they're people that are extremely passionate. In a lot of cases, they're going to fall on the extremes of the political spectrum, for better or worse. And so if you are a politician, and a lot of times that's who you have to cater to, because that's who you're getting the data from. Those are the people that are going to be at your offices. They're going to be the ones who are constantly protesting. They're going to be the ones that are constantly reaching out on every channel that they can reach out to you from. And so when, as a politician, that's who you're going to be listening to, because part of your job is to get reelected, for better or worse. And so what should be the case, though, right, is it should be everyone is making their voice heard in some capacity, so that your reps have more information to draw from and has a more informed way of deciding on where they stand and how they're going to implement different policy decisions. And it's a difficult thing to get to, especially at this point, because there is a lot of apathy towards the political process currently. I think you saw a recent poll that said 25% of Americans think violence is now a good way to have change in the U.S. And that poll has a very small sample size. It's a self-selecting sample size, but it is something that it's been growing over time. And so we have to look at, how do we give people a different outlet, a more productive outlet that's going to bring about change, bring about more transparency, more accountability. And, I think many representatives are along that same boat as well. They've had the highest number of resignations in decades due to threats of violence, due to gridlocking, the inability to do their jobs. They're sick of it. So, having a real way to connect with the average person, the everyday person, who's going to have, typically more things in common, may not exactly agree on how things should be resolved, but at least has a base foundation for a conversation that can be a bit more civil, can be a bit more thoughtful, and can lead to decisions that allow for trying out different solutions over periods of time, and optimizing or revamping or changing them as you go.
25% is a lot.
Yeah.
That sounds like a small number, but that's a lot that are on the same mind frame of saying violence is the way. And I'm laughing because it's like, I don't know. This is a totally different age that we're living in. You know what I mean? I'll be 40 at the end of the year, and thinking about over the years with different elected presidents and the way things are going, it's almost like it almost seems like people are like desperate, for something. So it's like, it's, in order for things to change, it's the only way to do it is violence. And now to have, you say with the poll is 25%, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's super wild. And And it's like, where do we go from here? There's a lot. I mean, historically, right? We are to the point where like a lot of people feel like a civil war is bound to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you talk to normal people, like in a lot of cases, like they don't believe that. But if you're on social media, if you're listening to the news, if you're looking at some of the polls that are out there, it's very much so. It's in your face constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're so divided. We're so divided. There's no way back. I don't believe that. You know, Thanos doesn't believe that. That's part of the reason why we're working on this, because we think more people have more things in common, and there's more ways for civil discussion. There's more foundations for civil discussion, and so how do we start highlighting those things? How do we start humanizing the conversation? How do we start showing people that there are things that they have in common that they can actually work together to find solutions for, without, you know, us influencing them in any way? Because everything on the platform, the content it's generated by people. It's what's important to you, why is it important, and what's being done about it. And that's something that's missing from a lot of political discourse currently. And we want to create a haven for people to be able to just go out there and do that.
I think that's that quote kind of just what you just said kind of stuck out to me. Y'all should put that on the shirt for your brand. Humanize the conversation. That's
Yeah.
That's really good because, like you said, social media will throw so much in your face to the point where you feel like I have to get off of this thing. You know what I mean? Because it'll trip your mind out into thinking again that we're going to be in a civil war. You could even look at the last election between Trump and Biden and how again the January 6th thing happened. You know, that's what I mean by like like desperation. Like what in the world was like what was that? You know what I mean? You sitting there watching it and it's like, what are we doing? But when you continue to throw Trump in in the faces of people, that certain group of, again, like you said, that 25%, it seems small, but look how many people ended up over there at the Capitol. You know what I mean? So it's a I think this app is really, really good. And do you guys, plan on, I guess, venturing out to other states to kind of get this word out and kind of talk about some stuff with this?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, anyone in the US can use it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live in California, Oklahoma, Michigan, Virginia, Florida, it doesn't matter where, you can sign up, create your profile, and you'll be able to see all the information that anyone else can see, like that I can see. So it's just going to be specific to your district, to your city, to your state. And same thing with the federal level. It's going to show your senators, your representatives. So anyone in the U.S. can use it. We're not limiting it to just the New York City or just New York State.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if this is something that you're passionate about, sign up, see who represents you, see what they're voting on, see what their stances are on. That's the best way to learn about what's going to affect you in your community. And from there, share your opinion. Say, I want this done in my community to help my community. That way, your representatives can see it, they can start acting on it, and hopefully some good will come from that.
What this question is for both of you. What has since you guys, I guess I could go from you guys getting out of college and going down this path of where you guys are now. What has all of this taught you guys about yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's going out and starting your own company is a big challenge.
It's rough.
There's yeah. There's from the financial commitments to the amount of time that it takes away from other endeavors, from family time, from engagements. It's a lot. I think I think we've strengthened our resolve and our perseverance for sure, as we've gone through and worked across, you know, reaching out to representatives. How do we make those connections? Where do we start? How do we, figure out what the next steps are? How do we strategize? We're still pretty small. There's a lot of things that we need to improve. We have like kind of our base framework for the app. We have a few different representatives offices that are on the platform, checking out the data, including like the mayor's office, our state senate and assembly members for the districts that I live in, and then we have a few council members in New York City that are also going to be joining soon. But it's just like, how do we take our two small voices and start building and learning and how to build momentum to build something from scratch. It's been a lot of work. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but it's given kind of a new strength, new sense of perseverance for doing something that is a space that we don't typically have like firm backgrounds in, but we have had a passion for, and we're learning a lot of new skills to do it. So like I'm the CEO, but I'm also doubling as our lead engineer right now. Mm-hmm. So most of the code on the constituent facing app, like I've put together. So I've learned a lot of different, Python. I've gotten to work with Google Cloud Platform to build a lot of different things. I'm a certified cloud architect now, which is not where I thought I would be, studying mechanical engineering and robotics. But here I am now, and I'm excited to be doing something that I think is impactful.
I just want to add on to Jackson's comment, saying that it was very worth all the hard work and perseverance that we had to go through. Like Jackson was saying, I have to agree with him. It's been a great ride. Just being able to work on this and then gaining skills and learning new skills. Like I never thought I would be in a position to be a co-founder and CFO, where I've like been expanding my knowledge of corporate finance. So it's something that's like new, interesting, and yeah, this whole ride with every voice, it's been great. But yeah, it's a tough road, but very worth it.
Yeah, I always ask my guests that question, because kind of going full circle, what you guys have been saying today is everybody's the same. Regardless of what's going on and everything that's going on, we all have the same thought process. We all want to strive for something greater. We don't want to be in no mess in here. You know what I mean? While we live in here, we all want to just be living peaceful. And I ask that question to people because I know for my journey, you can have ideas and things and you can plan things out. None of that happens as you going through the process. You know what I mean? It's just when you go out there and then you try to, start a business like you guys said, it's like, like you said, the financial strain and time away from family, and you can feel that too from the family too. You know what I mean? It's like, I know I said, that this was going to be like this, but I done tripped over here. We're going to get back to it. But you know what I mean? And all that it all goes into it, but it builds a stronger character. And as time goes on, we all can look back on it and say, like you said, Thanos, it was well worth everything, that you guys are doing. And, before we close, I just want to give you guys, this is part of my platform, is just to highlight people, for the things that, that you guys are doing. And just because for me, growing up, I was a quiet person. I never, in school, I didn't say nothing to nobody. I kind of was to myself saying something. So I know people, who I know grew up with, they're probably like, Ryan got a podcast. He ain't never say nothing to nobody. But you know what I mean? I've always had an idea of, again, almost like your app. I think that's why I was so drawn to it, because, people who are unheard and don't have anything. I want them, on the podcast to tell their story. Everybody has a story. So, what you guys are doing, I just think it's special, and everything that you're doing, you just continue to. It's working. Some days you may not feel like it is, but it's working. Like you said, Jackson, you're doing things that you never even planned on or thought you was doing. So, it's y'all are just doing what you're supposed to do, and God's laying out the plans for you. So just I can just tell you, just keep working. It's brilliant. I've said it 1,000 times while we're on here, but it's something that I think is necessary for this generation. It's something to give them a tool that they can use to feel empowered. And you guys are the two heads for it, and it's continue doing what you're doing because it's working. So do you guys have any social medias that you guys can shout out if anybody wants to reach out to you?
Yeah, it's first, we really appreciate that, Ryan, because it is like it's a tough road.
Yeah.
But we want to make that impact, and we're confident we can. We believe we can. So we just keep putting one step forward. Our socials right now, we're on Facebook and LinkedIn. So Facebook, it's Count Every Voice. I believe LinkedIn is the same. Both of our socials are on our website, counteveryvoice.org. And you can find us there. You can follow. We have our iOS and Android apps that are available for download. So as Thanos said, as long as you live in the US, that's state or territory. So, if you're Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Virgin Islands, you can get on the app as well, get connected with your reps in those areas and start sharing things that are important to you. And then we also are on Product Hunt. So you can find us there. That's a cool space to go and find new apps that can help you be more productive wherever you want to be, from AI assistants to tools for democracy like Every Voice, to new ideas for social media platforms. All of that's on our homepage, counteveryvoice.org. Check it out, see what we're about, learn about our team, who's part of the team now, and check out the app. I think I didn't mention this, but we also have a web app version as well. So if you don't want to download the app, you just want to use the browser version, it's on our website as well. It's just under Every Voice, and there's the For the People app that's on there. So it's the same as what's on your phone, just be on your mobile browser. So you can use it from your computer or from your internet browser if you're on Safari or Samsung Internet or Google Chrome, wherever you may be. So we want to give a lot of different ways to touch points and start making your voice heard.
So again, guys, I appreciate it. I'm gonna everything that you guys just said, the outlets. I'm gonna put that down in the description on the YouTube page when I edit the video. But in Facebook, I'll tag you guys when I usually put a preview out to let people know the video is coming out. So I'll tag you guys in that as well. But again, I appreciate you guys for jumping on this podcast with me and just telling your story, and then and giving out the information that I think is necessary, moving forward, and especially with this crazy election going on that's about to come up soon. This is the perfect outlet for people to use. So I'm gonna champion you guys on social media. I'm gonna keep pushing the word out, and eventually, hopefully we can keep in touch and network on some things, moving forward. So again, I appreciate you guys for jumping on this podcast with me today.
Thank you for having us, Ryan. We really appreciate it.
You're on YouTube, baby.